Hello.
Hey, Marc, it's Kevin Davis here from the List today. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Cam?
Good to chat as always. You and I talked around this time last year about what child is
Yeah.
this, and appropriately, I'm circling back on your new Christmas EP. This time about another classic Christmas carol, the first Noel, since it's the title track, and clearly a very cool way of interpreting well-known Bible accounts. I'd love to hear a little bit of your perspective on recording the song, what the song means to you personally, and a little bit talk about how it ties into this new Christmas EP you've put out.
Well, it was. I brought on my friend Jordan Weiberg, who's a friend from college and one of my best friends, to produce the song. But he kind of chose the song as something that he envisioned being really suitable for my voice. And honestly, the first Noel, historically for me, has been kind of just one of those wallpaper Christmas songs, if I'm to be completely honest. I never really thought of it as sort of a big singer type song. It always struck me as kind of a lullaby, even though I'm sure I've heard it sung by people as, a big emotional orchestral thing, which is kind of the direction we went with it. So it was a pleasant surprise, and I think because of that, I decided it made sense to name the new EP the first Noel EP, because it was that was kind of a sleeper hit for me personally.
That's interesting. I love hearing that it kind of snuck up on you a little bit, like a song you almost
really
took for
did.
granted. And what about it? Like, as you kind of maybe thought a little bit about the lyrics, or as as you mentioned, you got to kind of have it be your song as opposed to it just being like this song you kind of had heard for years and it was almost in your subconscious. Was there any particular aspect of singing those lyrics that struck you?
Yeah, I mean it's a simple song. Obviously, everyone knows it's just a recounting of the birth of Christ and the situation surrounding it. And it's just it just seemed like a really nice palette. What I love to do with well-known songs is to write a new piece of lyric or music for it. And I did that with O Come Emmanuel a couple of years ago. I did it with What Child Is This a little bit. But with this one, I wrote a completely new bridge that kind of refocuses the lullaby-esqueness of the first Noel into, I sort of injected some theology, talk about the incarnation and how that unites us all in one voice, for those of us who believe, and how it's for everyone. So yeah, it was a really fun experience. I got to record a choir actually for the first time in my career. My friend Jordan had a really huge vision for this song. He wanted to be super classical, and that's actually something that I've been discovering that I really enjoy doing, is kind of going big with orchestration whenever it's feasible, and whenever we can make it work. This day and age when everyone has including me, a recording setup at home, you just kind of tend to default to what you can do by yourself in the studio. So you sort of almost forget that music can be bigger than that sometimes as a recording artist these days. And so when Jordan suggested that we, bring in a choir, and I was like, oh man, I don't even know how to do that. Even though I've sung in choirs before, but we had to come up with our own arrangements, and it was a lot of fun. Turned into a big old classic track, and I think it really suits the song, and it really turns my opinion of it on its head, and really it really became this big singer kind of song that is just really that is what the Christmas story is worthy and deserving of, our biggest efforts. Even though in so many ways my favorite thing about Christmas is the subtleties involved. But there's just so many aspects of Christmas in that song.
They totally are. I mean, and if you look at all the verses, and I know, I don't think you sang 6 verses. I think you sang kind of more traditional verses that people know, plus the bridge you talked about.
Yeah.
But like if you go all the way to verse 6, which is I would say, to be honest, as I look at it, one I don't think I've ever heard before. Then
Right.
let us all with one accord sing praises to our heavenly Lord, that hath made heaven and earth of naught, and with his blood mankind has bought. And talking a little bit about the bridge that you wrote and kind of tying in a little bit of the incarnation.
Yeah.
What would you like people to take away from not just this song, but also this collection of songs from the first Noel?
This collection of songs, not just the one song.
Well, start with the first
Sorry,
Noel, because as you know, I do a song-based devotional, but in this answer, we can also expand a little bit to the rest of the tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love Christmas because it's just a time of year where you can sort of make it as meaningful as you want. And, I'm just thankful that we live in a culture that still celebrates something that at its heart is the beginning of life, celebrating the birth of a child, and not necessarily historically when Jesus was born, but we're still celebrating the idea that God made himself a man and can truly relate to the human experience in every single way so viscerally, and went through all the range of emotions, as a perfect person. And that's really what, the first Noel just kind of boils it down to a very simple way of understanding. Of course, there are 6 verses, and I left out purposefully, I would say at least half the song, just because I wanted the lyrics to still, even though it's an old song, I still wanted the lyrics to have, a contemporary, to be relatable still, from some of our favorite hymns. When you think about them, like, well, what does that even mean? I've got to pull out a dictionary.
Right.
And so just having spent some time outside of CCM in the last few years, I think I'm a lot more sensitive to that than I used to be. Making sure that I'm not just preaching to the choir, but also making this life-giving message completely accessible to anyone who hears it.
That's awesome, and I think you do that well with the balance of the songs, like the Christmas song and it's beginning to look like a lot like Christmas, but blended with Mary Did You Know and Ave Maria and Hallelujah Chorus and First Noel. Like, I feel like that is showing a little bit of where you were, where you lived in the last few years. That there's like a core understanding, and then you hit on this actually earlier, and I'd like to expand on it a little bit. The subtleties of the Christmas season. How would you say you feel you maybe best captured some of that with this selection of songs? And how could some of us, because one of the things I'll be stepping off on from this conversation is maybe challenging people to think a little bit more about the subtleties of this Christmas season. Like, what would you say are some of your favorite aspects of that you'd like me to maybe potentially share and or challenge people with?
Well, it's not on this new album, but my song "How Many Kings," which is worth it's down here, and once again on the last EP. I guess we talked about this last year, but that song was born out of exactly that. And maybe it's just because my personality is definitely more subtle. If you're into the Enneagram, I'm a 9, and so I just kind of like to be even-keeled and peaceful, and those aspects of the Christmas story really appeal to me. How God stepped in and did the exact opposite of what the Israelite people were waiting for. The season of Advent is all about waiting for this flame in the darkness, and we realize that now, looking back, that's what happened. But I think if we put ourselves in the shoes of the Israelites, I think he would really, truthfully, honestly be waiting for more of an explosion in the sky than a flame piercing the darkness. And so, God comes in, steps in, and shows us exactly the opposite of what sort of our fallen nature automatically reaches for, which are, these ideas of justice and retribution and even vengeance and ruling with an iron fist, and comes as a baby and shows us that tenderness and forgiveness and all these things are actually the things that seem the small things end up being really in the end the big things. The things that people on their deathbeds didn't look back on their lives and day. Those were the most important things. And I don't want to be one of those people that realizes that later in life. And I'm thankful to have grown up in a family and surrounded myself with people in my life that exemplify that every day. And I want that to show up in the music I record. And hopefully that has been accomplished in the first Noel EP, which explores not only the sacred side of Christmas, but also the nostalgic side, which I think is also very important.
Agreed. And actually, you're kind of speaking my language there too, because I wasn't always a believer, but I've always loved Christmas. And one of the first conversations I had for this series was you and I talking about how many kings. Believe it or not, it was now like 9 years ago we did that initially. And then, kind of on a cool note, this is now the third kind of classic Christmas song I've discussed. Like I actually discussed your guys' Down Here recording of Silent Night with Jason, and then What Child Is This with you last year, and now First Noel with you this year. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that also reflects pretty well on your guys' interest in kind of the historical songs.
Yeah.
And giving them your own treatment, combined with your own creativity and perspective of Christmas, and how that's been heard in the other art that you've done over the years. That, as you know, I've been an ongoing fan of and proponent of, and obviously this ministry really supports really well what you've been doing recently. So yeah, I feel like we've captured it all today for this conversation. I'll get it up in the next month or so, and send it through Merge PR, and I'm sure they'll make sure you see it, and I'll give you social media shout out and all that. And anything else you wanted to say about any of the other tracks, just in closing? Was there anything else about this collection of songs you'd like people to be listening for? That
sure.
Particularly cool.
I mean, the fact that I added a couple of sort of the sentimental, nostalgic songs on the EP, as opposed to other albums I've done. I don't think I've actually ever recorded a sentimental Christmas tune before this, but it was pretty intentional, because in a way it's kind of coming back to my roots. I grew up in a part of North America where it is possibly the least churched part of North America, which is Quebec. And I grew up in that area as a believer all my life. First, obviously, my faith saved my parents, and then I had to go through that whole thing where I had to question whether I was only believing because it was my parents, and then coming to the conclusion that no, following Jesus, I just can't see any other better way. But I did grow up appreciating that music is a gift from God in and of itself. And it's not simply the fact that we attach lyrics or poetry that speak of God that give music its value. The sound, I think, is also the gift. And so, music that isn't necessarily worshipful in its origin, I think still has a lot of value and reminds us of some really great things around the season. And so it was really fun to sort of break out of strictly the sacred and have a real different kind of fun on this record. So I hope people appreciate that.
No, that's awesome. Well, my daughters and I have already enjoyed several times. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, because, I think moms and dads love to sing out the moms and dads can hardly wait for school to start again. And of course, my girls are like, "Why do you think that's so funny?" So it is always an interesting, almost generational kind of nod to how we each, interpret Christmas a little bit differently. So, but yeah, I feel the same way. That it is a little bit of a nod, like you said, to the nostalgic and also the sacred and the fun songs, but also subtleties like you talked about. So yeah, I look forward to capturing all of that in the write-up. And yeah, as always, it's a pleasure to chat. And I was seeing you're coming to Philly middle of December for the tour, the K-Love Christmas tour, and hopefully I can make it out and say hi.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking
Let
at
me know.
my schedule now.
Yeah, let me know if you're available, and I'll see if I have comp tickets.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Please reach out and let me know if you're coming.
For sure. Let me check the schedule and get back to your publicist. And actually, I also got asked by Plum's publicist. So one way or the other, I'll make sure I get the note back to you so we can see if we can make it happen. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, great talking to you, Kevin. Maybe we'll do it again next year.
Sounds great, Mark. All the best, and God bless till we talk again.
All right, you too. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.